What is up, Internet? You thought we were on vacation, but when you're addicted to the take game, there are no takes off. And we got to give a huge shout out to our guy, Aaron Murray, here, as he is currently, I believe, in the Bahamas or somewhere islandy. He's looking fresh to death. He's got a sleeveless shirt on, looking surprisingly yoked. Aaron, I'll give it to you. I don't know if you've been lifting, but the arms look great. And we're going to do a quick non-live snap shoot day. We've got 30 minutes, a few things we want to break down. I'm not entirely sure how many we'll do this during the week. We'll do a couple, but the point is we're not taking the week off here on Snaps. We're here to give you all the college football takes your little heart can desire. Aaron, what's up, man? How's vacay?
Vacay is phenomenal. It's sunny, working on my tan. We're about to go to the water park, get some drinks. And there's a little casino here. We're up pretty big right now. So fingers crossed that we don't lose all that here in the next couple of days. But yeah, too many good stuff going on. Like we've talked about before with college football, it seems like the news cycle never ends. Like we were thinking like, okay, maybe next week, a little vacation, it's going to be dead. And then yesterday, it's just story after story after story. We got to get the people they want, T-Bob. We got to do it. So happy to see you working on my tan, trying not to get burned over here, but we'll have some fun.
Yeah, look, you're definitely not going to lose that money back to the casino. Like, that's never happened. Like, you're definitely going to walk away with a lot of money. So just look forward to that.
We should probably just stop now. We should probably just not gamble anymore. That's the problem. The problem is, T-Ball, this is the problem. You're New Orleans guy and Louisiana guy.
Yeah.
You guys like to gamble there.
Yeah.
The problem is, especially with blackjack, it seems like the past 2 days, we win big early. So like I'm 5 minutes in and I'm like way up. So I'm like, this sucks because I want to keep playing because I'm having fun. But then if I do stay, most likely I'm going to lose it all. So like I only end up playing for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then I'm kind of like sitting my like, what do you like? What? It sucks. Like, can I play with fake money at that point? Like, is there any way to like go play like a Monopoly style?
No, I mean, look, I think at that point, the play is you get up big. I'm assuming you're not playing on the cheapest tables already.
We're like $25 hands is what we're at.
Okay,
so like,
okay, yeah.
Not like
then
crazy.
If you can go find a $15 a hand, $10, go to the cheapest table and just sit there and drink and play, and you won't get your winnings as much. It's up to you, dude. It's up to you. I'm offering the economical man's way of gambling here. All right. Well, look, I want to dive into water park, but maybe we'll circle back around there. Let's get some college football. Try the people are here. Shout out the FanDuel Sportsbook app, promo code SNAPS. Got some great sign-up deals there. Huge thank you for the Volume Sports and Cowherd and everybody for giving us this chance. All right, let's do this thing. Aaron, Bama has a couple of new coordinators. And we were on one. We knew who the first was going to be, as it is official now. Tommy Rees has left Notre Dame. As I said, the man should run to Tuscaloosa. He thought so as well, as he is now the Alabama offensive coordinator. And then maybe a bit more surprisingly, Kevin Steele hired as defensive coordinator. Now, I offered a lot of Todd Grantham jokes to all my Alabama friends. It looks like karma got me, as Todd Grantham ironically ended up on the New Orleans Saints staff after it was all said and done. But like the Kevin Steele, I know Kevin Steele is good, but to me, it's not that different from the Todd Grantham jokes. This is kind of fascinating for multiple reasons. First off, we can get to the pressure on Tommy Rees and what this job really entails, and I find that to be pretty intriguing. But looking at both hires taken together, Aaron, what blows me away is you are talking about two opposite ends of the hiring spectrum, right? On one hand, you're going with a 30-year-old, an up-and-comer. You are betting on an up-and-comer in a way that Saban never really has in his entire time at Alabama. And then on the other side of the hand, you've gone complete opposite. You're going with a 64 years old. Think about that. Kevin Steele is over double the age of the man who will now be his peer that he'll be squaring off with every single day. He's been like a SEC major or just a major football lifer. So Nick Saban proving that he'll hire from multiple different backgrounds as long as he deems you worthy.
Well, I think on the defensive side of the football, I'm not as maybe because I'm an offensive guy too. Like I'm not as worried about that the football, just because that's Nick Saban's baby. Nick is one of the best defensive minds in America. Like getting someone that he's familiar with, that they can work together to make some of the corrections on that side of the football. Like I like the hire. I like Kevin Steele on that side. And the more I kind of dive into this whole Tommy Rees thing from Notre Dame, the more and more I like it. And I think a lot of people's big take is like, oh, they're going to get back to more of that physical style of football that Alabama fans have been wanting. Like, yes, that is going to be a part of it, but that's not really what makes me excited, because you look at Notre Dame the past few years when it comes to rushing offense, because that's what everyone's saying, like, oh, we're going to get back to the Derrick Henry style of offense that made Alabama great and which has been part of this dynasty for the past decade plus. Look at Notre Dame running the football for the past few years. 2021, they were 83rd in the country. 2022, this past year, they were 35th in the country. Their best year was back in 2020. They were 24th. So we're not like we're talking about a top 20, top 15, top 10 rushing attack at Notre Dame that we're bringing over. Yes, there's going to be a physicality to this offense that maybe we haven't seen from these past couple of years. But for me, when I think of offenses and the evolution of offense for the past 15 years, this is what gets me excited about Tommy Rees. This isn't going backwards. This essentially is still evolving as an offense. So give a little history lesson. 15 years ago when Nick Saban started going, what were the offenses? A lot of 21 personnel, 2 backs, a fullback, a tight end, 2 receivers, play action pass, downhill running, zone, power schemes. That is what you got. Lower scoring games, and then you play great defense on top of that. All of a sudden, we've seen the evolution to these spread offenses, the RPOs, the run pass options, where you get an athletic quarterback, you make it really easy on him, you get great receivers on the outside, and you just play a numbers game. Heavy box, an extra linebacker or safety, or a nickel kind of cheating in there. Boom, we got a quick bubble screen on the outside. You want to have a light box, 2 safeties, we'll then run the football. That was the next evolution. Now, all of a sudden, what we're seeing in offenses, and you see it a lot in the NFL, some of the best offenses in the NFL, Kansas City Chiefs come to mind. And then you look at what Todd Monken has done at Georgia as well. It isn't going backwards. It isn't all of a sudden you're seeing 21 personnel downhill running. It is using your personnel. It is using your weapons in unique ways. And what has Todd Monken done? What has Andy Reid done in Kansas City? It's the tight ends. It's that chess piece. It's moving those guys around, creating matchups against linebackers and safeties. It's moving running backs around and creating matchups against linebackers and safeties. It's moving receivers in unique positions as well, putting them in the backfield. So it isn't going backwards. It's the next evolution of offense. And you look at what Tommy Rees has done at Notre Dame. Yes, they want to run the football, but look what he's done with Michael Mayer. And you have to have the personnel. You can't just say, hey, I want to incorporate a tight end to our offense. I want to move this guy around and create matchups, and it's going to work. Like, you still have to have that dude. And Georgia's been blessed with having that. And Notre Dame obviously has been blessed with having Michael Mayer. But that is what he brings. It is that next stage of offense. So I don't want Alabama's fans to think that, hey, we're going to go backwards and we're going to go old school. No, it's. I think it's a good blend of new and old school you're going to get from Tommy Rees, and I absolutely love it. I love that style of offense. I love what Monken's done. I love what Andy Reid's done. Those, in my mind, are the best offenses in America at both levels. You're going to get more of that from Tommy Rees.
Okay, now watch it. I mean, Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni probably wants to be included in that number.
They got a great tight end too.
I mean, the Niners and San Fran certainly are kind of the epitome, Kyle Shanahan and company, of exactly what you're talking about, right? Using a mixture of old and new concepts, but patching them together by really focusing on maximizing these personnel mismatches. Now, San Fran's a bit unique as well in that they can play positionless football with Juszczyk and McCaffrey and everybody else. No, you're right. Look, Tommy Rees is a great offensive mind. There's no doubt about that. Brian Kelly desperately wanted to be his OC, and now Nick Saban. So, those guys are going to forget more football than I will ever know. So they tell me he's the guy. Yeah. I believe them. I think this is a bit – and look, Alabama needs – they're unsure at quarterback right now. And look what Tommy Rees did with quarterback in Notre Dame. He brings an Ian Book-led team to the playoff with a Wisconsin transfer, Jack Cohen. They go 11-1. And then even this last year, after losing Tyler Buckner immediately and having to work in a new quarterback, Drew Pine, you finished season on a 9-2 run. It took him a little bit, but he found a way to make that offense successful. So I think everything up to this point is great. But, Aaron, is it possible for him to live up to the standards of Alabama fans? Because here's where it gets a bit interesting.
Yeah.
As we said, the past 5 coordinators, Loxley, Kiffin, Sarkisian, Dayball, Bill O'Brien, they all did incredible jobs. But Alabama fans were ready to run kind of the majority of them out of town. Now, I think they were happy with Sarkisian, they were happy with Kiffin. But like even Bill O'Brien here at the end, they hated him. And it's like, can Tommy Rees actually be that much better than what these guys have put forward, right? And so my question is like that lineage, that same lineage that makes this job so attractive. And you might say, well, why not LSU compared to Alabama? Well, it's obvious to me, right? Look at the stability at Alabama. Look at the fact that, how they're competing for championships, the talent that they have. Look at the last 5 OCs did. Like, it's obvious, right? But all those same things that make it such an attractive landing spot mean it is a landing spot where the bar is impossibly high. And so, like, that is the question, Aaron. Can Tommy, like, what does Tommy Rees even need to do to live up to expectations? He has to, like, set literal NCAA records, or I'm just afraid that it's not going to be good enough.
Well, he will. I mean, that's the dilemma. I mean, it's a burden. I mean, yes, you get the ability to now coach 4 and 5 stars and the best athletes in the country, but you also that with that comes the expectations of we should be a top 10 offense. We want to be the ones imposing our will, and I think this is where Alabama fans need to figure out exactly what they want. I mean, do you want the Mac Jones era of scoring, in the mid 40s to 50 points per game? Or do you really want and truly want to be more of an offense that controls the clock, that controls the tempo, that is a little bit more physical at the line of scrimmage, that runs a little bit more, that beats a team up and that imposes its will, but maybe only scores 35 points per game? So, like, what is success at the end of the day? What if we're going to base our success on what makes Alabama fans happy? I think they need to figure out what's happening, because I love the Mac Jones era. Like, I love the fact that they're scoring 50 points per game, but you have to also run a certain style of offense to be able to do that. If you don't want to run that offense and you do want to be more physical, well, you're not going to score as many more points. So at the end of the day, this is what we've talked about before. Like, when it comes to being nitpicky and when you are the best of the best, you're never going to be happy one way or the other. To me, it's just win, baby, win. And I don't want to put all that pressure on Tommy Rees either, though. Like, at the end of the day, the defense last year also didn't play up to expectations. When you see that team and the players that are going to be drafted off that Alabama defense this year, and you guys like Will Anderson, et cetera, and the fact that they were not dominant week in and week out like they should be, I think there's just as much pressure on the defense to take a step forward. I would say, honestly, there's more pressure on the defense and should be. And I get the fact that it's Tommy Rees, it's a 30-year-old. Is he ready to take on, a team that has potential to win a national championship? I think he'll be just fine. I do. I don't think this offense is going to be elite by any standards because of the personnel, because of the issues at quarterback. He's going to have to work out some magic there. Once again, like, I'm more concerned about the defense. That is what the area, like I said at the beginning of this, that's Nick Saban's baby. And if Alabama wants to get back to being dominant and possibly, reclaiming the SEC and taking back what was theirs and beating Georgia, it's going to come more on the defensive side of the football, because that's how Georgia's won. Georgia's won the past 2 years because they've had a dominant defense and an offense that continues to evolve and make plays, but really it's been the defense side of the football. So it's more on Kevin Steele and it's more on Nick Saban. And I think Tommy Rees right now, I think just do enough, score in the mid-30s, and I think Alabama fans should be happy.
Can Kevin Steele be that guy? On the defensive side of the ball is a very real question as well. Now, it's the Alabama effect is such that it makes it a bit hard to project going forward sometimes, right? Because certainly, like, if you were just say, oh, well, look what Kevin Steele did at Miami last year, and it wasn't very good, but he's obviously going to have plays that are going to be markedly better, which leads you to having more statistical success. Now, if you look at his time at Auburn, I mean, it's been closer to what Alabama's bringing to bear, and those were some pretty good defenses. But again, I don't know if they're dominant to the point where they're just going to be like leaps and bounds better than what Pete Golding was out there. And I mean, as much as people hated Bill O'Brien, they really hated Pete Golding.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. At the end of the day, like, which coordinator was more hated last year? And I think it was Pete Golding. Like,
I think it was
Bill O'Brien, yeah, he got some crap, but Pete Golding has been the punching bag for Alabama. That's why I'm like, to me, the main focus should be on the defense side of football and getting that unit to take a major step forward, because Pete, I thought he was fine. Like we've discussed in the show before, if you really break down the numbers, they're not as bad as what people were making them out to be. And the defense was pretty darn good, besides really maybe a handful of games this year.
Not the Alabama standards.
That's the problem. That's Alabama standards. It's not, hey, go play great and be a dominant defense for 90% of the season. It's you need to be a great defense and a dominant defense for 95 to 100% of the season. Like that is their standard. It's not, okay, we'll give you grace and you just had one bad game versus Tennessee, or you had one bad game against this team but you performed great and gave up less than 20, 25 points for the rest of the season. No, it's we expect less than 25 points per game, regardless of the opponent we're playing, and Golding did not meet those expectations. So Bill O'Brien was given some crap because you had a Heisman winning quarterback, probably the best quarterback that Nick Saban has had during his tenure as Alabama head coach. And yes, expectations were not met as much there, but I don't think there was as much pissed off Alabama fans for the offense. It was more the defense. So yes, focus to me is defense. Kevin Steele, you better be ready, because these fans are expecting this defense to take a major step forward.
Yeah, now you have no Will Anderson. Just to give you an idea of how long Kevin Steele's been in this game, it's his third stop at Alabama alone. He was DC in 2007 before being replaced a year later. So already that's kind of like an interesting bit of a red flag. He was inside linebacker coach in 2014 before he went to LSU for 1 year in 2015. And so this is where I'll draw from some of my own personal fandom, because this ties into this issue in a lot of ways, then we'll move on. It's like I can't even judge Kevin Steele correctly, because that 2015 year with LSU is remembered in Tiger fans' minds as being just awful. It's like the same thing with Steve Spagnuolo in the NFL. He was with the New Orleans Saints 1 year. They set records for being bad. It convinced me that Steve Spagnuolo is an awful defensive coach, and yet he has won Super Bowls with both the Giants and continues to do very well with the Chiefs, right? So sometimes stops just don't fit. But yesterday I was like, man, I want to go back and look at just how bad that 2015 LSU defense was, why they were so hated. And I looked it up, and they weren't that awful. They're 10th in scoring defense, 5th in, which is not good, but in the SEC, 10th, giving up 24 games, 5th in total defense in the SEC. They were 11th in turnovers forced. They got some pretty good pressure. So whatever. My overall point is, in my memory, there's a disconnect. In my memory, that 2015 year was awful. And people were ready to string Kevin Steele up and run him out of town. And it was because the level of expectation was such that it was a bit unrealistic, right? You were coming out of the John Chavis years, that LSU Golden Era, Tyrann Mathieu, where you're up there with Alabama holding teams like 11, 12 points a game. And so I've seen firsthand just how fan expectation can discolor what's kind of an all right year and kind of force the guy out of town. And so, in my head, no, I don't think Kevin Steele's very exciting. No, I don't think he's going to be able to match that impossible bar. And I think a lot of Alabama fans will probably be left feeling about Kevin Steele how a lot of LSU fans were after 2015.
What do you think right now, before you look it up? What was Alabama's ranking when it comes to points per game this past year on defense and yards per game? Given
national rank, you're talking about here.
National ranking.
I bet you they're 11th and 9th.
They were 9th in total points giving up per game in the nation. 9th. Top 10 defense in the country giving up points per game, and 13th in total defense yards given up per game.
I was close, Bob.
You were close. But that's the funny thing. Statistically, that was one of the best defenses in the country this year.
Yeah.
Top 10 defense giving up points per game this year. Less than 20 points per game. It just, the bar is so high. And then it's funny because, and I don't even know if the bar is so high is the problem. I think for so long, the problem with the SEC and we keep seeing all these coaches getting fired and replaced left and right. It was because of Alabama and Nick Saban. It was because Alabama set the bar of this is what excellence looks like, and everyone was trying to chase it. And what was that for so long? A top 2 or 3 defense, maybe the best defense in the country, and that's what everyone was trying to get. And now all of a sudden, the script has kind of switched, And all of a sudden now it's Georgia is that elite defense. So like, even though that I'm a top 10 defense, I'm not to Georgia standard. So we must make some kind of change happen in order to get to that standard, because obviously they are the team. They're the best team in the country. They've won back-to-back national championships. So they are what we're all trying to strive for. So we will continue to move around and be unhappy, because if we're not better than them, then it doesn't matter. And that's the truth. Like, at the end of the day, this is all about winning championships. And it doesn't matter that you're the number 9 defense in the country. If Georgia's better than you and Georgia's the one winning championships, then we need to do something different in order to take over Georgia and to win championships again. So now all of a sudden the standard is Georgia, no longer Alabama. And Alabama's the one making changes, trying to figure out how the hell do they get back to the top of the mountain.
It's a great point. I would just add on that, to be clear, for Alabama, that logic applies. It's all about winning championships. I don't think that Mizzou should be firing people for failing to live up to that expectation. But no, great points, one and all, Aaron. So in the end, I give the hires a B. I feel like Rees is a potential A. I really like the potential, but then again, maybe I just like younger stuff. I feel like Kevin Steele's about as boring of a hire as you probably could have ended up with. But whatever. I mean, is it really that much different than Jeremy Pruitt, which is what the Alabama fans are wanting? Not really.
Yeah.
Okay, other stories we wanted to touch on. Jaden Rashada, The Athletic had another great Jaden Rashada piece where we got an idea of more of the rhythm of this entire thing. And it actually checks out. It corroborates with some Florida people that I've talked to here that told me basically the same story, which is a lot of this boils down to a bidding war between Hugh Hathcock, who's one of the big Florida boosters, and John Rees, the giant Miami booster. But why this article is interesting is not because of the story of how this went down, in my opinion. It's you get an idea of what we talked about the other day, how much pressure was on Rashada, and how maybe that was starting to get to him a bit. And we all know, look, yes, I'll deal with pressure for $12 million. So that's all well and good, but you're still an 18-year-old, 17-year-old kid that has a ton on their plate, and it can be overwhelming, no matter how much money's in your bank account at the end of the day. And well, turns out none was. And then we also got an idea of the NIL breakdown, like what he was actually due to be paid. And that's pretty fascinating, because he was not going to be asked to do very much. So it was a $13.8 million deal over 4 years. For reference, Kenny Pickett got $14.1 million for 4 years. The contract had a major red flag in it from the beginning, in that the collective could, quote, in its sole and absolute discretion, terminate the agreement without penalty or further obligation, which it did end up doing. But as the contract was originally written, it called for a $500,000 payment up front. After that, payments would increase from $250,000 a month as a freshman to $291 a month as a sophomore to $375 as a junior, and then be rounded out with some sub 200 payments as a senior. To get this money, all he had to do was one branded Twitter post and one branded Instagram post a month, up to 8 fan engagement events per year. Could be in person or through video conferences, didn't matter. None would last longer than 2 hours. And then he just had to autograph 15 pieces of merchandise per year. I know none of this went through, but this is not that any of this matters, because the NCAA is feckless, but in a day and age where the only rule surrounding all of this stuff is it's not supposed to be inducement, like for recruiting or pay for play, this is about as pay for play as you could get. The first $500K was said to be delivered before he's ever even enrolled in the school. And then there is no way that you can convince me that his social media following is such that if we were to look at the market, that these and I don't care about this, but it is funny because Florida potentially breaking the only rule you can't, like, so blatantly. But like, no, you cannot convince me that what he was being asked to do would have been ample compensation, right, for what he was going to get.
Yes.
So just a greasy deal altogether that shows the danger of these like boosters getting in these pissing contests. And in the end, Rashada ends up kind of being a victim as he gets a spotlight thrust on him that he didn't deserve. And, because like A, he probably wasn't good enough to be talked about that much. And B, he didn't deserve to have us point that out just because we're talking about it because it's money.
No, well, listen, I don't blame the kids. Like at the end of the day, none of this is the kids' fault. And I could be the salty old man who's pissed off because NIL and it's ruining the game. This isn't the kids. These are the collectives. These are the boosters. Like they're the ones screwing this whole thing up. So no one should ever be upset for a kid who's getting offered X amount of money to go to university. Like good for you, kid. Like go make your money, do what you need to do, especially if it's all, essentially bullshit that you have to do in order to get that money. I mean, $200,000 plus per month to post 2 social media posts essentially. And then maybe attend one event that month. Like that's it. Like that is the absolute American dream right there. And then on top of that, you have an opportunity to go play college football at a Power 5 school like Florida. So good for you for getting that on paper. Unfortunately, obviously, we know it did not get done. So I went back, like you fumbled and bumbled around with that athletic article last week, and I went back and read it a little bit. And it was really fascinating.
The star quarterback one. Yeah, I eventually found my rhythm with it. But yes. It basically just says your quarterback will not finish at your school. Don't invest in him.
Unless you're Carson Beck, who's a man of his word and stayed at Georgia, and hopefully he'll get paid off handsomely as a starting quarterback this year because of that. But yeah, like the article was great. I mean, 75% of those top 50 kids from 2017 to 2020 ended up transferring if they did not start in their first 2 seasons. And then like 87% of them did not, or I think all but one essentially didn't transfer or did transfer if they did not start.
Who's fumbling and bumbling now?
This is way better than your fumbling and bumbling, T-Bob. All better than your fumbling bumbling. Like let me
we're looking for 97% because Carson Beck was the only one that did.
The one. So are these kids worth it? No, they're not. Are these deals absolutely stupid and outrageous? Yes, they are idiotic. They're a waste of money. But this goes back to the overall discussion. That's what college football is right now. College football is wasteful, man. Like between the coaches' buyouts and now the deals that these collectives are putting together for some of these quarterbacks to come, whether you're a kid that has played or a kid that's in high school, in my opinion, no kid should be paid that at all. Like maybe 6 figures, yes. Which for most kids, getting that, if any kid, honestly, at that age of 18 to 22, if I know that I'm going to be making $100,000, I would take that all day of the week. I would have taken $50,000 to play. But we've gotten to the point where these deals have become so outrageous. Once again, it's not the kids' fault that they're accepting them. Yeah. Good for you. It is these groups of people that have been come together to raise money to offer these kids. And I just think it's unsustainable at the end of the day. Like, I don't see this lasting for another 3 or 4 years because these stories about guys transferring, deals being essentially deals falling apart like we just saw at Florida, this is just a start. So this is an unsustainable model that will not last because these kids are unproven. They're 18 years old, and all it's going to take is a few of them to not play well or transfer for all of a sudden these donors to say, I just gave you $200,000. This kid didn't play. This kid transferred. No, I'm not going to give any more money. Similar to what happened at Texas. Like if I'm an A&M donor, after all the money that was raised for that class last year, smoking in the locker room, guys transferring out, I'm sorry, but that collective pot should, and I think will continue to go down, especially with a head coach that's making that much money and not a lot of success on the football field. So I just think the model's stupid. Like I said, I think it's unsustainable, and I think it's going to continue to change here in the near future, especially when these big-time, high-profile quarterbacks continue to end up not panning out.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Is it Adam Smith, the old economist that you read about in social studies? It talks about the invisible hand. Maybe the market will self-correct. I mean, here on Snaps, we are firm believers to save your NIL money for transfer quarterbacks. Okay,
yes.
I'll pay the fuck out of a transfer quarterback. Just maybe chill on the high school guys. A little bit there. And the only other takeaway from this, again, like I said, is there's an anecdote relayed about Jaden Rashada being at the Elite 11 camp. The news is just broken about a $9.5 million deal. And just kind of, here's a kid who's not playing well. He's not necessarily even doing as good as the others around him, like his peers. And yet all of his peers are openly talking about how much money he's making. You hear the coach over, hundreds of people there. He starts with balls there. You could just feel the pressure that was building up within him. So I'm glad that Jaden Rashada actually ends up free of all of that, not in the state of Florida, goes to Arizona State where his father played. No NIL deal there. Go earn it. Again,
I don't know. I kind of wish he went to Florida and didn't play it and transferred, and Florida looked like a bunch of jackasses for this decision. I really do. Nothing would have made me happier with this whole situation if Jaden Rashada would have gone to Florida,
I think you
made
should be
$3
happy.
million, made $3 million, and then decides to transfer after like his second season. Like I would have been like, you're a bunch of idiots for making that deal, Florida, and good for you, Jaden, for making $3 million without having to go play a single game.
I don't think that Jaden Rashada, I mean, I think you still got it, man. I think we got the best of both worlds. I think Jaden Rashada is in a better place for him, and I think Florida do look like complete idiots. So, like, I don't think anybody's coming out of this being like, Florida looks good. No, Florida looks like
God, no.
All right, 3 minutes left here. Real quick. Texas and OU are remaining in the Big 12 for another year, it looks like, as talks have stalled to get them out in 2024. It has to do with TV contracts, and it has to do with a 99-year agreement signed in 2012, which the Big 12 schools agreed to be together for 99 years. What sort of divorce is who? Like, I'm so confused. What smart, forward-thinking businessmen in the age of the internet and the incredibly rapid change of our society were like, yeah, we should agree to a 99-year contract. Like, that just inherently seems like bad business. But what it's going to result in is we'll probably get a Big 14 for the next couple of years, Aaron.
Yeah. It's similar to like the ACC contract. Like, who signed that deal that locked you into what, like 2035, essentially? Like, and all these ACC schools now just kind of sitting back, like, how the hell do we get out of this? It looks like that ain't going to happen. So I'm more upset for the situation, for the fact that I just wanted college football to be settled. Like, here, 2024, this is college football. We have a 12-team playoff. The Big Ten is this now with the additions of USC and UCLA. I don't think they're done. I do think that there's a chance that we may hear some more news this offseason of possibly more schools leaving the Pac-12 to go to either the Big 12 or the Big 10. Because I do think if we went over the schedule last week with the Big 12. Like, when you take Oklahoma and Texas out of the equation in 2 years and you look at the teams that are left in that conference, it's not, to me, really sexy. It's not like, wow, that's an awesome conference. So, I do wonder if they're going to try and get some more teams. If the Big Ten also is going to try to get some more teams, I do think all that is going to try to happen leading into that 2024 season. So it would have been great to see Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC. And just like I said, hey, rubber stamp, bam, college football for you college football fans that have, bitched and moaned and said you wanted this or didn't want this. Well, guess what? We don't really care. This is it. And we're here. And this is what college football is going to look like for the next 5 to 10 years until we make some other change. So it's not the end of the world. It isn't. We all survived. I do think it would have been better, though, just to be done with all the off the field issues and just focus on this is what college football looks like. So, but Aaron, it does give Texas and Oklahoma. It gives to me, the big winners of this whole situation were, though, at the end of the day, Venables and Sarkisian, because there isn't the pressure on those two coaches all of a sudden now to make both teams that much better this season. Because what was the discussion going to be like? If you didn't make a massive improvement,
they need to do great this year. I thought you were going to say they're winners because they get to play in a shittier conference. They better win the conference.
No, because I'll say this: the worry was if there wasn't this gigantic jump, especially for Oklahoma, to get to maybe 9 or 10 wins, then all of a sudden the question was going to be: is Venables our guy to lead us into the SEC? Is he good enough as a coach to make the jump from the Big 12 to the SEC? We don't want to be the laughingstocks of the SEC. Do we need to bring in a more veteran head coach as we make that transition over? Now, all of a sudden, he gets 2 more years to build the program to possibly be better and more equipped to handle SEC competition. So I think he does buy himself an extra year before fans really question, is he good enough to coach in the SEC as a head coach here at Oklahoma?
Maybe. If they don't hit 9 or 10 wins next year, though, I think people are going to be asking those questions like already. Hey, Aaron, when you go to the water park, Do you pee in the pool? Do you pee in the
Yes.
Do you pee in the
Yeah.
lazy river? Yeah, I do too.
Oh,
Are you going
definitely
to a
penal
water
laser.
park today?
Yeah, we're about to go right now.
What do you like, a wave pool or a lazy river best?
I'm more of a lazy river guy. Get a couple cocktails, sit in the lazy river. We'll go on some of the water slides, and yeah, it'll be a fun
All
afternoon.
right.
Get
Well,
my
hey,
tan on with my 3-inch
y'all,
seam shorts.
y'all have fun. Your legs look great. Your arms look great. Your tan looks great. With your smile always dazzling, looks even better. Tell Sharon, thank you so much for allowing you to take on vacation, making it into a takecation. And again, I don't know how many of these we'll do this week, but we will do some more stuff. So we will not be silent. We will not go quietly into that good night. Thank you, Aaron. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. That really helps. If you're listening on podcasts, as always, rate and review it. That really helps. If you enjoy it, y'all, right? Obviously. And sign up for FanDuel, promo code SNAPS, and a huge thank you to Ryan Brumley, Paul Fair, and Pat Gunner. Danny Cardenas. Y'all have a great day, and we'll be back with more snaps later on.